Have you noticed how he has gotten used to swallowing his own silence? As if every tear burning inside him was just another drop hidden in the desert of his soul. He learned too early that he couldn't show weakness, that if he showed pain, someone would use it against him. And so he stored it up. He turned his chest into a prison that no one could enter. But now that weight has become unbearable, and you feel it because his heart speaks even when his mouth says nothing. You listen whether you want to or not. You hear it when his gaze seems too empty for a body still alive. You hear it when his breath feels heavy, as if carrying his own existence is an unbearable burden. He didn't want to admit it. But today the confession comes like a cut, cruel, deep. And if you allow it, it will pierce your heart as well. Because when someone who has learned to swallow tears finally decides to release the truth, it doesn't come gently. It comes tearing through. It comes destroying the walls that took years to build. And then you realize how much this pain has always been right in front of you, but it was never spoken, never touched. You only saw signs, loose pieces, disguised gestures. He smiled, but he didn't shine. He talked, but he never gave himself fully. He was close, but he seemed too far away. And now that his silence screams, you feel the ground crack. As if every swallowed word is crashing down on you all at once. What was invisible has turned into an overwhelming weight. And your heart, which didn't expect this avalanche, shatters along with it. Maybe you've never stopped to think about this. How many men carry invisible pain? How many become masters at disguising it? How many believe that being strong means never letting anyone notice? And how many slowly die without ever asking for help? He didn't know how to confess. He didn't have the words to express his own wound. So the confession didn't come in polished words. It came in collapse. It came at the breaking point. It came like a scream that took a lifetime to be released. And in that moment you wonder, how many times have I done this to myself? How many times have I swallowed what I wanted to let out? How many times have I pretended to be fine just so no one would suspect? If this has ever happened to you, comment, I needed to hear this. Because this is the moment to recognize the wound that has remained hidden behind so many masks. He who seemed unshakable is now crumbling before you. And you feel that part of what destroys him also lives within you. Maybe that's why the impact is so brutal. Because deep down, it's not just his pain that you're seeing. It's yours too. Reflected, laid bare, unavoidable. He never wanted to be remembered as someone fragile. He always fought to maintain the image of someone who can endure, someone who supports, someone who goes through everything without complaining. But that image, which seemed like a shield, became his prison. Because behind it, he was suffocating. And the more he tried to prove he was strong, the further he moved away from any real possibility of healing. You realize this now. You see that each of his silences wasn't indifference. It was fear. It was the fear of being seen as someone broken. And ironically, that fear was exactly what shattered him inside. How many times have you been close to someone like this? Someone who said they were okay, but their eyes revealed otherwise. Someone who fell silent but whose body trembled from the inside out. It's hard to notice because he learned the art of deceiving even himself. But today's confession leaves no room for doubt. He swallowed so many tears that his chest turned into an ocean. And when an ocean overflows, there's no way to pretend it's just passing rain. You feel this sea invading the space, flooding every corner, demanding that someone sees, that someone takes responsibility for acknowledging what has always been hidden. And you understand. You understand that all this time wasn't just about a man holding on to pain. It was about a human being desperately trying to believe that surviving in silence was enough. But it's not. It never was. And maybe that's the part that hurts the most. Knowing he could have spoken up earlier. Knowing he could have trusted, could have asked for help, but he didn't. And now the collapse comes like an earthquake, without warning, without preparation, without choice. You try to hold on. But how do you hold on to someone who has spent years accumulating internal storms? How do you stop the rubble from falling when the structure has been compromised for a long time? There's no easy way. There's no quick fix. There's only the bare truth: he couldn't take it anymore. In that moment, you also feel the vulnerability of your own soul. Because it's not just about him. It's about everyone who at some point has swallowed too many tears, has locked themselves away too much, has pretended too often. And the heart starts to whisper, until when? Until when will we maintain this silent pact with pain? Until when will we confuse resilience with abandonment of ourselves? You realize that his confession is in fact a mirror for you, and what tears you apart is not just his pain, but the recognition of something within yourself that you've never had the courage to admit. This is the point where the soul trembles, because what seemed his now reveals itself as ours. Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell me in the comments. And suddenly, what seemed like just the confession of a man becomes the revelation of an entire generation. A generation taught to be silent, a generation trained to believe that weakness is a sin, a generation that prefers to suffer in silence rather than expose itself in vulnerability. And when the silence breaks, the world hears a sound it can't ignore. A sound that's not just crying, but a scream of liberation. Because by confessing, he's not just saying what he feels, he is opening a crack in the wall that separates truth from appearance. And anyone brave enough to look into that abyss will never be the same. You feel it in your chest now. You feel as if you are standing before something that goes beyond individual history. It's as if you're facing a collective wound, a mark that many carry but few admit. And when someone finally has the courage to expose it, the pain is not just theirs. It belongs to all of us. He looks around and notices the emptiness surrounding him. So many people present, yet none truly available to hear what's going on in his heart. He tried to convince himself that this was the right path, to live in silence, to keep everything to himself, to swallow tears until his body learned to endure. But the body cannot endure forever. The mind cannot endure forever. The heart cannot endure forever. You realize this the moment he finally finds his voice. It's not a beautiful speech. It's not an organized explanation. It's a raw outpouring, almost primal, as if words accumulated over the years are rushing to escape all at once. And what comes out is not just a confession, it's liberation. It's the echo of a pain that refuses to stay imprisoned. You feel the weight of this moment. You feel as if the air around is heavy. You sense something spiritual moving, because when the truth comes to light, even silence must bow down. He talks about loneliness, the kind that no one sees, not the loneliness of lacking people, but the loneliness of never truly feeling understood. He speaks of nights spent lying in bed exhausted, yet unable to sleep because his mind was an unending storm. He talks about the times he thought of giving up, but the obligation to continue pushed him to get up the next day. And every word he utters cuts through you, not just because it reveals pain, but because it uncovers something you too have experienced to some degree. It's in this moment that you find yourself asking, how many around me are living exactly this right now? How many hide deep wounds behind automatic smiles? How many swallow tears in the bathroom, only to return to the table and act as if nothing happened? This realization is disturbing, because it shows that the entire world is more fragile than it appears. And perhaps this is the truth that no one has the courage to say. Most people are just surviving. No one wants to admit it, but everyone feels it. You sense the depth of this dilemma. You recognize that the swallowed cries don't go away. They accumulate, they take root, they transform into an invisible weight that one day demands to be acknowledged. And when that happens, there's no mask that can hold it back. Maybe that's why his confession is so devastating. Because it's not just about pain. It's about the cost of never allowing oneself to be human. It's about the consequences of believing that showing weakness is a failure. And now, before your eyes, you see the result. A heart crushed by its own silence. Have you ever heard this phrase before? Comment, I've heard it, yes. And something within you begins to awaken. You feel an urgency to speak, an urgency to drop the masks, an urgency to allow your soul to breathe. He, with his raw confession, opens a door that can no longer be closed. And you understand. Either you walk through that door and face the truth, or you continue living in the same cycle of silence and self-destruction. There is no middle ground. There is no alternative path. And if you listen closely, you'll realize that this message isn't just from him to you, it's also from you to yourself. A call to acknowledge the pain that still pulses, an invitation to not wait any longer, a reminder that no one can be strong forever. You feel that his chest carries layers of pain that have never been named. And upon realizing this, you start to notice how every gesture that seemed normal hid a silent cry for help. He laughed at moments that called for tears. He said, "It's all good," when everything was falling apart. He occupied spaces, but never felt like he belonged. And now you understand it was just survival. Survival is the word that echoes most. Survival. Not living, not flourishing, not experiencing the lightness of existence, just surviving. And surviving comes at a high cost. It costs sleepless nights. It costs unexplained physical pain. It costs the feeling of always being in debt to oneself. He confesses that he swallowed too many tears in front of the mirror. He confesses that he built a version of himself for the world and another that only he knew. He confesses that deep down, he was afraid that if someone saw the true version, no one would stay. And so he chose to swallow everything, until his body screamed louder than his mind could control. You notice how this happens for you at times too. The fear of not being accepted. The fear of not being loved in your most raw form. And because of that, the constant temptation to wear masks that are tight but conceal. Masks that suffocate but protect. But his confession is like a hammer against those masks. Once you hear it, you can't pretend you didn't. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The impact is irreversible. And suddenly you realize that swallowed tears never really disappear. They transform, they become anxiety. They turn into inexplicable crises. They lead to emotional withdrawal. They manifest as despair that no one ever notices. You take a deep breath because you begin to see that denying your own pain comes at too high a price. And maybe that's exactly what you needed to face today. What's still locked away in you, waiting to be said? What's still hidden, waiting to be set free? You realize it's not just about him. It's about all of us who have been trained to believe that silence was a virtue, that resilience was proof of worth. Admitting weakness felt like giving up respect. But now, hearing his confession, everything falls apart. Because what truly dishonors life is not the admitted weakness, it's the hidden pain. It's living an existence that can never be whole because it can't be true. And you feel that this is the moment to break the cycle. This is the time to say what has never been said. This is the time to release the weight that confines you. If this resonated with you, comment, "I needed to hear this." And as you breathe in the face of this revelation, a new question arises. If he could open his heart now, after all this time, what's stopping you from starting today? It may not be easy. It may hurt more than you'd like. But it will always be better than carrying that hidden desert in your chest. He swallowed tears for years, and today's confession shattered the wall. And seeing this, you realize it's your turn to choose. Either you continue to stay silent, or you finally break free. He takes a deep breath, and in that breath, it seems like all the weight of the years lifts for an instant. It's not a complete healing, it's not the end of suffering, but it's the first step of someone who has finally learned that they don't have to carry everything alone. You realize this. You see that every swallowed tear that now flows is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage. Courage to show oneself as human. Courage to free oneself from the invisible prisons that suffocated him. And when you witness this movement, something awakens in you too, because there is no individual liberation when the pain is collective. What he releases resonates within you. What he confesses echoes in your own silences. And the inevitable question arises, how much longer will you also swallow what you feel? Life doesn't wait. The body doesn't wait. The heart doesn't wait. Accumulated pain always finds a way to escape. It can come in the form of a crisis. It can appear as extreme loneliness. It can manifest as an illness that no one can explain. It can be now in the form of a truth that finally finds its voice. You realize that there has never been virtue in silence. The true act of courage is to speak. It's to expose yourself. It's to trust that the world won't crumble if someone sees your vulnerability. The true act of strength is to admit that you also bleed, that you also need care. It shows you this. It shows that swallowing tears for so long didn't save you. It only delayed. It shows that hiding pain didn't protect you. It only isolated you. It shows that living with a facade didn't sustain you. It only consumed you. And in that moment, you feel it's time to break the cycle. Not tomorrow, not when life feels lighter, not when everything seems more organized, but now, because now is the only real time. Now is the moment when you can choose to breathe differently. If this text resonated with you, leave a heart so I know you're on this journey together. You don't have to keep repeating the same story. You don't have to be the next one to swallow tears until your body collapses. You don't have to wait for a late confession to understand what is already clear. The time to be free is today. And if there's still doubt within you, remember, no one can be strong all the time. No one was created to bear everything in silence. No one needs to spend a lifetime hiding what they feel. Recognize this now. Let this awareness invade every corner of your mind. Let this awareness change the way you see yourself. Let this awareness guide the next step you take. You are not alone. You never were. And this truth needs to be remembered every day until your soul believes it. If this video made you think, the next one will turn you inside out. Go ahead.